Hi folks, welcome to another group of Hobby Nightmares. If you like what I do, the subscribe button is down below. And if you don't click the bell notification icon, you will never hear from me, because YouTube will not tell you that I am here uploading new content. Also, if you really like what I do, the Patreon is down below for those of you who want to get involved in the Q&A that we're going to do every single week. Next one should be on Thursday. And if you're getting any new models this week, then make sure you head over to Composite Games. They do a lot for the channel. And if you use the promo code Northern Exile down below, you will get 5% off your order at checkout. Lovely stuff. Let's move on to the Hobby Nightmares. So the voting was pretty much equal. So I'm going to basically do this on the actual channel community page, I think, where I ask you guys to literally vote on what kind of content you want. Long form content or short form content. I try to read all of the comments that I get on all of my videos and reply to them when it's pertinent to do so. And we are literally at 50-50 at the moment in terms of comments on people wanting longer or shorter form of videos. So I will put a vote on over the next week, and yeah, we'll see where we go with that. But today we're going to do a middling video, a medium video to try and please both people. Craig is first of all. So if you send in a Hobby Nightmare, first of all, if you don't want me to use your real name, then please say in the very, very, very first line of your message. Otherwise, I will use the name I'm given, and that is where we go. I don't have a lot of time to record these, so, you know, I literally record them and send them out. So if you don't want me to use your real name, then please make sure you tell me within the first few lines when I read them out, because I like to get raw reactions, so when I read them out, you know, I'm not embarrassing you or outing you or anything like that. And secondly, thank you for those of you who have taken my advice and started to send your Hobby Nightmares to somebody else to get them proofread, whether it's a friend of yours, whether it's yourself, just, you know, I would advise writing it one day and reading it the next day, then sending it in, you know, because you will pick up so many mistakes when you do that. Really helps with the reading, really helps with me, you know, being able to do these raw and not having to be your editor. If you want to pay me to be your editor, no problem. But, you know, apart from that, don't really want to. So Craig says, "Hello, Mr. Midland." Cheeky bugger. Cheeky. "You can use my name, Craig, in this story. I'm not bothered, and there is nothing particularly controversial in it. More that there is something uncomfortable, shall we say. Alright? The fact that this was 24 years ago, this coming September, is, in and of itself, a temporal rather than a hobby nightmare. But time marches inexorably on. It does, my friend. I am 35 now. This is me. This is North. Depressing. I was 15 and on my way to Games Day from the true north of England. Sunderland, to be precise. Okay, yeah, it is more northerly. It was never called capital of the North, though, was it? Liverpool was, just saying. As it happens, in the intervening years, I have since moved even further north. But that is by the by, okay? This was my second Games Day, having travelled down the previous year, 1998, and picked up what I still consider to be one of the best orc models ever released. The Games Day Knob by Brian Nelson. Very nice. My paint job on it could not, by way of contrast, be similarly considered. I'm going to Google that right now. I want to Google that right now, because I really like old orc models. Let's have a look at that. I wonder if it's going to be one of these big old metal ones, or if it's actually going to look really good. Oh no, that looks pretty cool. I like that. That is cool. I like that pose. That's pretty awesome. Yeah, cool. On the day in question, I was dropped off by my parents in the early hours of the morning. Wow, you have some very understanding parents, man. And met up with my best friend, who was also coming with me. Let's call him Al, for no other reason than that is his name. We boarded the bus and set off. For those of you who do not know, Games Day was, in those days, hosted by the NEC Centre in Birmingham, the National Exhibition Centre, which is some 200 miles away from Sunderland, with a scheduled stop halfway at a motorway service station. I can needlessly be specific here and say that it was the Woolly Edge Services. That's the most British name for anything ever. Woolly Edge. Woolly Edge. Like, if I'm driving in America and we see somewhere called Woolly Edge, people stop and go, that's a funny name. What the hell's that all about, you know? In England, you wouldn't even bat an eye. Yeah, Woolly Edge. Yeah, we're going down to Woolly Edge. Services, but doing so adds nothing to the story. Fair enough. Yeah, so Games Day, I assume it is still a thing, but it's in a different guise these days. But Games Day used to be the big, massive get-together for the hobby. It still kind of is, but there are better ones out there. There is a board game expo in England that is much better than the Games Workshop one, because you get to see a lot more games at the end of the day, and it's over a few more days as well. Anyway. I still say this only to make you, the audience, feel the pain of my tedium sitting on a coach, travelling 200 miles, whilst being 15 years old, in the pitch black of the morning, and prior to the existence of modern technology to kill the time. What made it worse, and what made the 100 miles to the services seem even longer, is that 5 minutes into this journey, I needed to use the toilet. There was no toilet on the coach, and the driver would not stop to let me get off to relieve myself in some bushes somewhere. Well, I will say this for the driver, man. Unless it's a medical emergency, he's not allowed to stop the coach to let you just get off and walk into some bushes. Like, he's not allowed to do that. I've taken National Express coaches quite a lot in my student days, because the price comparison to get back from Durham to where I live, it was about £100 on the train, whereas the bus was about 20 quid return. So, you know, I use the bus a lot. And yeah, he's not legally allowed to like let you just wander off the bus halfway through. Unless there's a medical emergency, that he then needs to use his best judgment. But you needing the toilet is not a medical emergency. So, you know, unless you say you've got something wrong with you, like actively you're ill and you need to like get out of the bus, then he might stop, but he's under no obligation to stop for you. I know, because, you know, I've been there when people have tried it and they've been told no. In no uncertain terms, am I stopping this bus on the motorway so you can walk into some bushes? You know, you inconvenience everybody else there. Nobody wants you to do it. It was your responsibility to go to the toilet beforehand. And you know what? I will also say there are toilets on every coach I've ever been on, so they will just say go and use that one, basically, if you're ill. But if there's no toilet on the bus, yeah, you've got more of a leg to stand on. But anyway, we're going off the rails here. But yeah, from what I've seen, especially if there's a toilet on the coach, they're under no obligation to stop for you, unless there's some sort of medical emergency. There I was sat for the next 2 hours, bursting for a pee. I managed to make it, just. And for those of you over 16 and who have popped your cherry, okay, let me tell you that no orgasm can possibly compare to that feeling of relief. Yeah, it is good. It is good. It is a good one. The story, however, is not yet over. We boarded the bus and resumed our journey. Again, less than 5 minutes in, I needed the toilet. At which point, I peed myself. I cannot recall. It might have been on the coach. It might have been queuing to get into the venue. Either way, I was a 15-year-old lad wearing khaki chinos. Obviously, I was at the shockwave end of the cutting edge of fashion. That had wet himself. Clearly, this was going to be a fantastic day. I spent the rest of the day pretty much just waiting to go home. What made it even worse was that I had an uncontrollable thirst and must have spent a fortune on drinks. As will come as no surprise to anybody, I also needed to keep going to the toilet all of the time. I can't really remember much about Games Day, to be honest, as my mind was completely elsewhere. The time came to go home and we got on the bus. As unsurprising as the fact that I needed to go to the toilet all the time during the day, because of the amount I had drank, was the fact that nobody wanted to sit next to Pissy McGee over here. And the fact, and neither can I blame them. Yeah. Here comes some unsurprising event number 3. Mere moments into the journey, I needed the toilet again, and once again, the driver would not stop. So, for I choose to believe was the second time that day, but may well have been more, I ended up having to wet myself after trying to hold it in for over 2 hours until the services. The same thing happened on the remainder of the journey back to Sunderland, whereupon I was collected by my parents, who had at least brought a change of clothes after I'd managed to phone them from the services. My God, dude. That is... I want to have I really want to have a go at you because, like, you know, you're not a grown man, but, like, you know, go to the toilet before you get on the coach and all that. But, like, that seems like a nightmare. That's a nightmare. That is humiliating. And I'm really sorry you had to go through that. Two things happened afterwards. The first is that I had a GP appointment, a general practitioner appointment, to those of you who are in the US, a doctor, and was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, the uncontrollable thirst and need to go to the toilet being classic symptoms. The second is that after my experience of Games Day, I fell completely and utterly out of the hobby and anything to do with it for the next 19 years. Man, I do understand the impracticalities of stopping at every what could have possibly ended up being 20 minutes so that I could go to the toilet, but equally, having to sit there in agony until I very literally pissed myself was not on either. Still, it is what it is. I survived, no harm was done, other to my ego. I am back in the hobby now, and after have been for the last 4 years. I am also going to Warhammer Fest this April, but this time with my wife and son. The circle will no doubt be completed because he is a potty training toddler and will invariably end up wetting himself, if not worse. Thanks for reading this and take care, Craig. Yeah, I mean, as I said, you know, if there is a toilet on the coach, he's under no obligation to stop for you, man. Unless it's not working, I guess, but, you know. If there isn't one, yeah, I guess you've got a point. I guess you do have a point there. I will say this, though. If I'm having a bad day and I'm on that coach and somebody is getting up all the time, needing to go to the toilet and stopping the coach, there comes a point after like 3 or 4 times where you're sitting there going, oh my god, I'm gonna just, you know, our blood vessel's gonna burst here in my brain. I'm just done, you know. But again, you know, you had something wrong with you as well. At that stage, I would just try and convince him that I was ill and needed to get off the coach or I'm gonna make a mess. He'd probably stop at that point, you know. But anyway, enough discussing that. You, it's in your past. That's good. I'm really sorry you had to go through it. Probably the worst part of that is when you have to call your parents on the way home and say you've wet yourself. That's horrible, man. Yeah, really sorry about that. Anyway, moving on. JG145. I call him JG145 because he didn't put a name on his email. He just put his name in his email address, and I don't want to, like, dox him. So there we go. Hello. Not gonna lie, been wanting to share this one for a while. A bit of a long one. Okay, no problem, man. I can see from the rest of your email, though, man, this isn't a long one. This is like 3 paragraphs, but, you know, never mind. I am a black, middle-aged man, and was 16 at the time of this story. This is important for later. Okay. I was going to my first tournament at Warhammer World, and was trying out my Kabbalite Coven Drukhari army. That sounds pretty cool. The first 3 matches were fine. I won all 3. Then I met person number 4. When I approached him, he said, "Rare to have black people play this game." Shit. Oh, it was a different world back then, man. Oh, no. So you are 35, and this happened when you were 16. Okay. So, about 20 years ago, then. Yeah, we're looking at, like, 2002, 2003. Wow. That's horrible. That's horrible, dude. No, we're looking at around the year 2000. Quote about that, around the year 2000. That sucks. The story goes on, by the way. This isn't the end. At first I thought it was just a statement, but it was clear he was kinda, I guess you could say, angry that I was there playing his game. Bear in mind, I believe I was the only black person at the tournament. Shit. This is horrible. Alright, let's carry on. The game was normal till round 5, where Drukhari are at their best, at least in that incarnation of the game. I used my chimeras and birds to take back an objective, and basically win the match. I always say when people use the word match, they're more gamey than people use the word game. I don't know why. As I was doing that, he was clearly angry and said, "Taking orders from the Massa, I see, because I had my Beastmaster still alive." Okay. I angrily shrugged it off and finished the game. I went to shake his hand, but instead, he did some gorilla noises. And and started beating his chest. Then said, "I hope I never see you rare breeds here again." What? Thankfully, the player next to me had gotten a staff member to come in and intervene. When questioned why he was doing it, he said, "I simply don't like people like him in the hobby." So the staff member kicked him out from the tournament and out of the building. It never really bothered me that a few black people played the game, and made me consider quitting, but decided not to because I loved the game. Cheers. Okay, yeah, fair enough. I always look back to a video of the Motorhead lead singer Lemmy, and he's given I might put it in the description down below. He's given a letter from a fan who is black, and he says, "Look, I'm into metal music, but a lot of people who are in my own culture and in my own place of work and things like that, they call me some sort of like race traitor because I like white people metal music and things like that." And Lemmy just looks down the camera and says, "Tell them to go shove it. Tell them to go shove up their arse, boy." Like metal brings people joy and happiness. Jimi Hendrix did all right, didn't he? Straight away, just straight down the middle. And I'm going to give a more solid advice to people here, because I have no idea. I will say this, right? I have no idea whether this story is true. Whenever the word racism comes up in any of these videos, I want to make sure, right, that I say, listen, I was not there. I do not know whether this is true or not. I do know that we live in a world that sometimes people like to bring up the R word, the racism word, right, to try and make a point or make a stand that may or may not have happened, right? Now, I generally am going to come down on the side that this actually happened, because in the early 2000s, this thing was a lot more prevalent than it used to be, than it is now. And if you are younger and you don't believe this guy, ask any of your older hobby friends, because most of them would be from working class backgrounds, and ask all of your older hobby friends, was there racism at home or around them at that time? And every single one of them will tell you yes. Every one of them will say yes. It just is what it is. I don't blame older people for saying racist stuff, because that's the generation they were in, right? That's just who they are. They're not going to change. Especially if they're in the 60s or above, they're not going to change. That just is what it is. They were brought up that way. And there's a really cool Bill Burr joke where he said, what we don't understand is our parents were probably hippies by their standpoint. You know what I mean? Where they say, hey, just don't bring them home. Do all this other stuff, but don't bring them home. Like but their parents were actual, like, full on, skinheads and all that. So it's like, it comes down in degrees, is what he's saying, right? People get more and more accepting generation by generation by generation. That doesn't mean we have the wherewithal to judge people of a previous generation for growing up at a different time. We are lucky enough to grow up in a time where these things are going away. But whenever somebody from this generation brings up a story like this, it is very important to take them very, very seriously and to commiserate with them. Because at the end of the day, I've seen it happen at football matches, I've seen it happen in the street back in the day. Haven't seen it happen for like 10, 15 years, whether I've gone to football games or where I've gone to places where you would normally see it, like a games day, where people are getting more and more angry with each other. Haven't really seen it. That's just me. So, I'm not going to say this is true because, I can't, I wasn't there, but I am going to say, I'll give a little bit of advice, right? If you are not white, and you are in this hobby, and you are here with us painting your models, right? And anybody tells you that you can't do the hobby, that you can't be here or anything like that. Now, what I mean by that is not just other people like white people. I mean people of your own race who say, well, you shouldn't really be into that. That's a white person thing. Tell them to go fuck themselves. Tell them to go fuck off, right? Not all of us want to listen to fucking Marvin Gaye, all right? Yeah, some of us want to watch Space Marines stomp people into a fucking paste. That's what some of us like to do. It's cool. Cool doesn't have a colour. Cool is just cool. Go fuck yourself. Alright? That's all you need to say. All you need to say. Nobody has the right to tell you that you don't belong here. This is why back in the day, I did a video having a go. Do you guys remember that video of Games Workshop where they had the black background with the white text and it said, you know, and it was all this like virtue signalling stuff where they said, oh, yeah, if you don't accept everybody, then you shouldn't be here and you won't be missed, all that sort of stuff, right? Yeah, I made a video going against that because they are not the moral arbiters of the world. No, you know, your soul is in your keeping alone. You are your own responsibility. If you need a Games Workshop, a big conglomerate, to tell you how to behave, you need fucking therapy. And you shouldn't be in this hobby, probably. For a while. Just step back. Go work on yourself, right? Okay? But if you also need to tell people, like, hey, because you're from a certain, like, race, you shouldn't be here. Like, again, just go fuck yourself. And it goes, and it swings in roundabouts, right? Do you notice how I used that example there? I didn't use the example of a white person telling a black person that they can't be here. I used the example of, you know, like say a black kid's parent saying, why are you doing that? That's not part of your culture. It does happen. It happens. Right? It's like, I once had it with a friend of mine who was into rap music. I'm not going to name him because, you know, he's on the channel. Back in the day, he used to love rap music. And his parents would tell him, listen, that's for black people. That's not for you. It's bullshit. Find joy in what you find joy in. And fuck them off. Fuck off anybody who tells you that you can't do it. Do what you want. Enjoyment and cool has no colour. It doesn't have a colour at all. It's just fun. Fun stuff. Right? I don't want to hear anybody defending this in the comments, by the way. They're saying, well, you know, technically... No. Go fuck yourself, man. This is not... This is a day where you don't have a leg to stand on in this argument. This is just... It is what it is, right? But Warhammer's always been for everybody, and that's been my thing from the start. That's why I didn't like that Games Workshop statement. This is one of the most inclusive, wonderful hobbies in the world. And the fact that you felt the need to say that as Games Workshop is pathetic. It's virtue signaling. You know you don't need to say it. That's why I was so angry with it. You know you don't need to say it. Don't paint your fan base as people who are like that, because we're not. We built this place. We built it into an inclusive, wonderful place before you even fucking thought about it. So go piss off. Don't even start, right? Don't even start. Anyway, moving on from that story, because it's getting me hot under the collar. But yeah, I'm really sorry that happened to you, man. That sucks. That sucks. And again, the most controversial things that come up in Hobby Nightmares, I'll never sit here and say, this definitely happened. Because there are some Hobby Nightmares that I read out where I go, I even say it in the read. I go, not sure about this one. Yeah. So, I'm not going to say I was there or that it happened or whatever. That wouldn't be true, right? But if it did happen, and you're not misremembering things, this sucks. And I'm really sorry you had to go through it. Anyway. Moving on. Warlord Cookie says, hi North, I wanted some advice from yourself as someone who has had a lot of experience in this hobby and sits on the other side of the fence. You'll know what I mean in the next paragraph. Okay. I love Space Wolves. Oh, I think I've read this before. Yeah, I've read this one before. I'm going to read the next one. I've read that one before. Definitely not Alfaria says, hey North, love the channel, and it's always good to listen to an episode of Hobby Nightmares, whether that's eating, painting, or just doing general stuff. Good lad. I thought I'd share my first couple of years in the hobby, as to be completely honest, it's all a bit of a nightmare to begin with, and I'm surprised myself how I'm still going strong when it comes to Warhammer. Alrighty. So, the best place to start is when I got my first army. I'd been to my local Warhammer club, the school I used to go to, and I got an idea that there was an offer in terms of what to get. Okay. You had your usual Space Marine players, with the majority being Dark Angels, due to the Dark Vengeance box that came out in 7th edition. We also had a Xenos player as well, which ended up drawing my interest more to the Tau. Okay. So I saved up and went to my local GW to get the Tau Start Collecting box set. Yeah, that is something that I wish that we would go back to. Do you remember back in the day? I swear, the Start Collecting box sets were just, I don't think they were called Start Collecting, or were they? But they were like £25. Again, inflation and all that, fair enough. But I still think like a starter box set should be around 40 quid, and you should get a good deal with it as well. Anyway, so I saved up and went to my local Games Workshop to start the Tau Start Collecting. Or to get the Tau Start Collecting. I went in and asked about starting to collect Warhammer 40,000. Well, the guy working at the store started to advertise the Dark Vengeance box to me as a good way to start, as it had the rulebook and the datasheets for everything in the box. Well, being the stubborn person I was, mate, you're not being stubborn. You're not being stubborn. You want Tau. You've gone in and said you want Tau. This happened all of the time when I was working with GW, because I worked for GW at the same time Dark Vengeance was out. You know, you were told all the time, you need to sell Dark Vengeance, you need to sell the core starter box set, or you're not hitting KPIs, key performance indicators. And if you're not hitting KPIs, and you've got a manager who's an asshole, he will sack you. He will sack you because, as far as he's concerned, and as far as Games Workshop is concerned, you're not bringing new people into the hobby. Why? Because you're not selling the core starter box set, which is Dark Vengeance, and nothing else. If that sounds retarded to you, it's because it is. I very rarely use that word. Only when something's completely beyond the pale will I ever stoop to using that word. But here we are, right? Now, later on, they finally relented towards the end of my time at GW when they said, hey, now any core box set that you sell, whether it's the Dark Imperium box set, or one of the Battle Force box sets, or one of the Start Collecting box sets, that counts as a new customer thing. So you can sell them any army that you want, which is something that we campaigned for years, and apparently old-timer Games Workshop dudes would tell me all the time, mate, it's been this way for 20 years. For 20 years, people could only sell the core starter box set, whether it be the Black Reach box set, whether it be the Dark Vengeance, going all the way back, like 3rd edition, right? They only wanted you to sell that box set because that box set is indicative of a growing hobby. It's bollocks, it's stupid, and it means everybody's going to be doing Space Marines. And you wonder why they're the most popular army. I say this all the time. Yes, they look cool. Yes, they scream 40k, but they have been artificially pushed on everybody in the hobby for 20, 30 years, and you wonder why they're the most popular. Rant over. I said I wanted to collect Tau, to which she gave me about a 20-minute back and forth of why I want Tau particularly, and why it was beneficial to start with a Dark Vengeance box anyway. Yeah, I mean, I know you're not getting any of the models that you want in this box set that I want you to buy, but, you know, here's all the reasons why I hated that. Listen, I would offer the Dark Vengeance box set once, right? And I would always offer it, even if somebody said, listen, I want to collect Dark Eldar. I'd be like, okay, cool. I just want to show you this, and then we'll move to the Dark Eldar. This is the core box set. There's all the rules in it, yada, 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 yada. You give him the spiel. And if he doesn't want it, say, right, and here are the Dark Eldar, right? Here are the Dark Eldar, and here is the core rules starter box set. Well, the core rules. So back then, we didn't really have cheat sheets for the rules. It was literally the rules were in the box set, and, you know, that's what you got. Or you can buy the big rule book as well. So I say, yeah, if you want to start in the hobby, get everything that you need, you will need the Dark Eldar box set, the paint set, and this core starter rules book, right? It'll show you everything you need to know about the setting and all of that cool stuff. That would come to much more than the Dark Vengeance box set, because you get a lot more of the Dark Vengeance box set than you do in the normal box set. And that's how you would say to somebody, hey, you're getting a saving if you buy the Dark Vengeance box set. But still, you're not getting what you want, which is why it was so stupid for Games Workshop to push that narrative constantly, that you have to sell that box set or you're not making any progress. Bollocks to it. Get it in the sea. Eventually, he did give in, and I got my Tau. Yeah, he gave in. He gave in. I bet you don't want to go back to that Games Workshop anymore, though. Along with the Codex to start me off. It did annoy me a bit that he was trying to get me to buy something I had very little interest in, but now I understand that he was just trying to meet a target of selling starter boxes, indeed. It took me about a week to build everything, and I was ready to face the world with a new Tau Start Collecting box, a squad of Pathfinders, and a Devilfish. Yeah, Devilfish. The most stupid name for a thing ever in the hobby. You know. Unless it's a Space Wolf thing. So I started going to my local Warhammer club every Wednesday after school. We only had about an hour and a half, so we were lucky if we even managed to get to turn 2. For the purpose of confidentiality, I'm not going into these people's actual names. Okay, I'm going to leave that there because this is a very long story, and I will continue it next time. Because we are getting really on. I'm getting into the in-depth discussion on games. And I don't really want to do that right now. I wanted to have my little rant on the KPI thing and then come away. But there we go. There are the hobby nightmares for today. I hope you've had a wonderful time, as I have done. And I will speak to you on Thursday, where I may be doing some more lore, if the vote can get done by then, or I may be doing a Games Workshop story if I get that story back in time. If not, I may be doing it over the weekend. We will see. Love you all long time. I will speak to you then. Have a wonderful rest of your day. I'll see you later. Have a good one.